I don't know.
Good evening. I gotta switch it on. Okay, yep. Oh, wow. I don't need to use my jingles. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dick Ward. I'm one of your selectmen. I am the chairman of your school, elementary school building committee. And so our committee would like to welcome you all here tonight. This is a meeting that we set up as a forum for information for you. When we get started, we'll have our building committee here. We'll have folks from the MSBA who are starting, and then we will have questions through the evening later on. Okay? So first, I'd like to introduce the two folks that came from the Mass School Building Authority, where we visited yesterday, some of the representatives for our town. And first is Matt Donovan, and he's the operations chief for MSBA. That's close enough, Matt? Okay. And our executive director for the Mass School Building Authority, Jack Donovan.
No, that's Matt Donovan.
I'm sorry, Jack McCarthy. I got a note in my hand, see, but I haven't got my glasses on. Not too bright. Okay, Jack McCarthy, Executive Director of the Mass School Building. Jack is one of us. When we were at the meeting yesterday, I went around the table and we found out that he was the town moderator in his town. So he has been in the local government. So I think it would probably be good now for me to turn it over to Jack.
Thank you. Thank you. You can tell we rehearsed. But not everybody at the MSBA is Irish, by the way, just because you have Donovan and McCarthy here. We're not like that at all. So, as Mike said, Carver was on the agenda for the board meeting yesterday, and our board voted unanimously to authorize the executive director, me, to enter into an agreement with you folks for a building on this site. And our share of that building is going to be approximately $25.8 million. Your OPM, and during his presentation, Chris will have the exact numbers of everything I'm telling you now. And so our share of that, your base grant is 56.26%. But because you've got points for maintenance and for building an energy efficient building, your reimbursement rates kicked up to 59.47. So those are smart decisions that you guys made here locally that increase the amount of money that we're going to pay. So up until yesterday, you guys were kind of an idea as far as the MSBA was concerned. But after yesterday's vote, you're now a project. And so basically the MSBA has done all that it has to do to see this project through to the end. Now it turns to you folks. So we're making you this offer of this money to build this building on this site. And now it's your job to accept that offer. And you're going to do that in the elections that's coming up. You know, your residents are going to determine whether you want to take our most generous offer. So I think we have town meeting on the first and then the vote on the 12th. Okay, so by the 12th we should all know. But, you know, it's time, and I don't know where you guys are, but I come to these a lot, and people want to talk to me about, well, what if we did this change, or this change, or this change? That's all been done as far as we're concerned. We've scoped out what the building is, and Chris will show you what it is, and we've scoped out where it's going to be, and so we make that offer, and it doesn't change. You have to accept it or not. And if you don't accept it, I'll still love you all, but I'm going to move on to the next town that's looking for that money, so know that. And although you guys are back for the second time, there's never any guarantee that if you turn it down, you'll be back for a third time. So just know, this is, if you're going to act, this is the time to act. But again, it's up to you. We have the money. We're ready to commit that. We've committed the money to you. You just have to accept it. And basically, that's the only message that I have. The money, we don't make offers that we don't have the money to back. So the money's there. In the early days, people used to be worried about that, but I think we've proven over the years that that's not a problem. So that's really all that I need to tell you guys. I hope you accept our offer, because I want to tell you that the crew that you have, HMFH and PMA, they've done a great job on this study. And so we unanimously and excitingly accepted this project. So you've got great consultants here. They've done a great job for you. So I applaud the folks here for picking them. You know, so far the decisions that have been made by your local guys have been really good, really smart, and have maximized the amount of contribution that you can get from the MSBA. So you should all know that the folks you've entrusted to bring this project forward have done an outstanding job. So I want you to know. If you have any questions about the MSBA's role on the MSBA, I'd be happy to take them. But if you're going to talk about specifics of the project, I'm going to leave that up to the guys that are going to follow me. So if there's any questions specifically about MSBA, happy to entertain them. Great. Good luck with the rest of the meeting. I'm going to head back to my town, and good luck to you all.
Thank you, Joe. Very good. No, thank you very much. When I came out of the MSBA meeting yesterday, here's what I was.
That's all I have.
I would like to introduce our project managers, Chris Carroll and Walter Hartley. Yep. So Chris will go over a presentation, and hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Thank you. Again, I'm Chris Carroll with PMA Consultants, Walter Hartley, and then Devin from HMFH, the architect, is also here tonight. What we're going to do is go through our slideshow that we've been using at the different community outings, so you're seeing the same thing the other groups have seen as well. We'll go through the presentation, try to address everything that's in that, and then take any and all questions that you have after. If you really want to ask during the slide is up, please ask as well. So we're just going to go through the slides. When we get to some of the number slides, Michael Milanowski will probably address some of the details on the tax numbers and some other information that I'm sure you're all very interested in. So again, I'm just going to kind of flip through the slides. Only about 16 slides, so it's pretty quick. And what it just shows is an overview of the project. We try to highlight the details of the project and what we hope feeds you the information that you need to hear. And again, just the cover, it's just a rendering of the project as we see it. And we'll get into a little more detail, but your existing school's right here, and you'll see that in a little bit on some of the slides. So one of the most important things is, why do you need a school? And that's based on the existing conditions of the school that you're in now, as well as the building in the front. And what you're looking at with the old schools is you'd have to do gut renovations and significant alterations of the building. They have structural issues, accessibility issues, energy efficiency. You can see right in the back of windows are shot. The Washburn building here was built as a temporary building. It's already beyond its useful life, and that's showing in the leaks, the windows, the structure. So as the architects go through their study, they're looking at all this. And one of the things we had to do is price up all the options. And what you go through is a evaluation of site, building, if you're going to just renovate, add reno, new build. And we ended up with the most cost-effective and best option being the new construction. HMFH, as they're going through the design process, they have objectives that they're targeting to try to meet. One of the most important things is the educational plan that's developed by Liz Sorrell and her staff. How are they going to implement their education dictates how the building is shaped, laid out, and designed. And that's one of the most important issues. We also want to make the most efficient, low-maintenance building that we possibly could, as well as durable, minimize the construction costs. The architects look at the solar and wind orientation, so when the new building is sited, you optimize the sun coming in, the natural lighting into the windows, good for the students, as well as it reduces your energy usage. Another consideration is the separation of public and academic spaces. One of the important charters of the designer was to design a school that has public access after hours. You want a school that you're going to use for more than just the students during the day. At nighttime, you've got basketball organizations, other groups that want to use the building. So the building will be shaped and designed so that you have access to key areas, but not the whole building. So it can be properly sealed off. Another factor, mitigate perceived building size. Abutters, absolutely a big concern for the designers and the whole team. We don't want to offend people, we don't want to encroach on the environment as well as the neighbors, so everything is looked at. Maximize athletic fields, there's a need for additional fields in the town. That's being addressed by this project as well. And then the final bullet there is you want the design to be an intentional design. You don't want to make it look like it's squeezed in or it just happened. It's a intentional design to fit the community, to fit the site and the function of the educational plan. Key design decisions, exterior envelope, architectural finishes, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems are designed to be durable, efficient, and most comfortable for the students and operational life cycle. An important note, the next to bottom note there, as we went through this process of design and costing of the project, we went through a value engineering exercise with the architects and the committee to reduce the cost by over $4 million before we ever even got to the MSBA. So we've made a significant attempt to keep this project as low cost as possible for the community. Looking at the total project budget, just what we did is we took the total numbers and broke it down into some key elements. So when you're looking, we have the site work, which is about 2.7 million, the actual building construction at about 28 million, the cost of general contractor, fees, subcontractors, they've got to have money in to have fencing, site protection, keep the existing school fully active during construction, protect the students, and segregate the construction. So everything has a little bit of cost added to it. We have to plan that your construction is going to be a year and a half from now. So you have to make sure that you're projecting the cost of construction today will escalate 5–6% between today and when you actually start construction. So we want to make sure we forecast that correctly. As most of you may be aware, the town has decided to seek the CPA funds as an alternate funding source to be applied towards the athletic fields and playgrounds, which will be general use by the town. It becomes more of a public facility as opposed to just the school fields. And then you look at soft costs. You've got the consultant cost, OPM and the architect, as well as furnishing the new school. You'll reuse some furniture, equipment, and fixtures and IT, but you'll also need a lot of their equipment as well to bring the educational spaces up to date. And then you always plan on contingencies. Change orders happen, unforeseen conditions exist, and there'll be events that you just couldn't plan for, but you know that something's going to happen, so you need to plan some monies to make sure that you've got a contingency to roll back on. So bottom line is the total project cost, everything that we're looking at, all in, is the $51.9 million. When you look at the cost, one of the things that you have to look at is when you were looking at your previous project that did not go through back in 2012, the average cost per square foot was running around $280 a square foot. In today's market and projected to what we're looking at, we're up closer to $350 a square foot. Escalation and cost of living, everything else gets, it impacts construction. And we're getting the information from professional estimators, construction managers. It's industry-wide knowledge. It's not just select to Carver. It's the cost of construction increases every year. And as I mentioned, we're looking at between now and the time you start construction, probably 5 to 8% increase alone. This is a summary of the breakdown of the costs. Again, you've got the total project costs up around $51.9 million. The CPA funds as an alternate source for the project would reduce the cost to the town down to $49.9. As you just heard from Mr. McCarthy, the MSBA facility grant has two values. There's a low value and a high value. This is the high value, which is based on full reimbursement of the base grant plus the contingency money. Some of it will be eligible, and you'll get reimbursed on a portion of that, which would bring your grant up to the 26.1, which would create a local share or tax burden for you guys of the 23.77 million. And then I'll let Michael talk to the actual projected tax piece. That's definitely up his alley.
I think Chris likes this part because he can give the bad news to me. He sits down and smiles and watches me sweat. With the slide behind me, before I get into the tax breakdown of the different types of classifications in the town, I want to go through and hit a couple points. The total project cost, again, is about $52 million for this project, of which includes about $2 million in recreation. So we're a $49 million project plus $2 million in recreation that's drastically needed. Now, to emphasize the slides that you've already seen tonight, this is for a new constructed building built to last a long time. This is not to build a temporary structure for 25 years that we're in right now. It's built to last a long time. Secondly, I believe the selectmen and the committee heard the public the last few times this project has been attempted. Our project managers went through and analyzed the cost of what the total all-in renovation cost would have been. That would have been $67 million all in. And again, hindsight's 20/20, but we were able to analyze that. So we're able to bring you a new construction building with a recreation project for $52 million all in. I will emphasize the all in because the selectmen will do everything within their power to make sure that this project stays on budget, just like they're doing with the fire station. Now, as it relates to the CPA request, I've had requests as to why are we doing CPA? Well, as you heard Mr. McCarthy, MSBA is giving us an offer for money for the project. In that, they have many rules. One of the rules is that only 8% of the project cost can be used for site work. They do not have a project that they've done in the suburban area that's come in under that. So in other words, that $1.9 million, if we did not assign that to CPA, would be 100% on the taxpayers. You would be paying 100% of that $1.9 million, and we would be going for a debt exclusion of $51.9 million. We are going for a debt exclusion of the portion of the $49 million. Why are CPA funds so important? Because the state matches those. Carver has received over $1.9 million from the state in matching CPA funds. That's about 70%. So we're talking we get 59% from the state from MSBA. Well, CPA, we get 70%. That's why we've done it this way. It reduces the burden on the taxpayers. So, what that leaves us with is the $23.7 million is the actual upset limit that we will be going for and requesting the taxpayers to approve for a debt exclusion. $23.7 million. With that, when we start to look at the bonding and the financing of that, we've looked at a bond over 25 years, a fixed bond. There will be the same payment every year for those 25 years. Again, the payments won't go up, they won't go down. It'll be a level payment over those 25 years. When you amortize the $23.7 million over 25 years, the debt service on that is $1.7 million. So annually, we're going to have a $1.7 million bill that we have to pay to Wall Street to finance this project. Getting into the bottom half of the sheet is when we look at what the assessed values are of the different classifications of property within Carver, we have broken it down into the three major classes. Now again, these are averages, and we can show you how to get some more detailed information on your single-family home. The average house is assessed in Carver at $259,000. The share of additional taxes that that house would have to pay is $359 annually. It's $359 today, it's $359 in 15 years. It doesn't change. When we look at a condo, the average condo in Carver is $220,000. The payment on that would be $306. Now, just for easy math, that is, for every $100,000 of value, whether it's $220,000 or $259,000, that's $138 per $100,000. So if you have a house that's it's assessed, and again, it's assessed, not appraised, assessed at $200,000, it's $200,000 or 2 times 138. If you have a house that's assessed at $400,000, then it's 4 times that 138. When it comes to our manufactured home parks, those are taxed a little bit differently. They're taxed as groups. And based upon what the town receives in taxation from them, the average manufactured home in each one of the parks would pay $42.19 per year. So those are the numbers that are the upset limits that we're looking for. Now, again, I'm going to be talking about upset limits because I think that's important. We're always trying to do better. The CPA has approved the $1.9 million to recommend at town meeting. They're putting together a committee as the project goes through to work with the principal to see if they can reduce some of those costs down. Just like the selectmen are working towards reducing down this impact on you. You saw on an earlier slide, the committee already cut $4 million out of the project. Let me tell you how the selectmen are doing that. 2 meetings ago, the selectmen approved 2 solar agreements. They're called pilots, payment in lieu of taxes or tax agreements. In short, pilots allow the town to lock in a fixed payment with inflation for a developer of solar projects. That's important because there's some movement in the state legislature to make some of these solar projects tax exempt. If they make them tax exempt, then we no longer get the taxes. But if we have a pilot agreement, it's a contract, we then have a legal obligation to get those taxes for the next 20 or 25 years, depending upon what it turns out to be. Secondly, is when the solar projects go to get financing, they go to Wall Street as well. They're actually paying a premium as I negotiate these with them, above and beyond what their normal taxes would be. Yes, they're paying a premium. They're paying more than they're required to get this agreement, because it's easier for them to get financing if they have fixed payments locked in and they take the variable out of the analysis. So we're getting more money than the market would bear for solar projects. It's a long way of saying the selectmen just approved 8 megawatts of solar energy that start off in year 1 with $130,000 in new tax revenue coming to the town. They last for 25 years. Each one of those goes up 2.5% per year. What the selectmen have done, and they brought this to the Capital Outlay Committee, is they said, we want to allocate $100,000 out of that new tax revenue for solar projects into paying off the debt service. So that results, when I mentioned the debt service would come out to be $1.7 million, now all of a sudden it's $1.6 million. That's a 6% reduction. So on these numbers you're seeing right here, through actions the selectmen have already taken, they've already reduced that number down by 6%. Lastly on this slide is through many of the financial policies that town meeting has approved and the selectmen have made sure have been implemented with the assistance of the finance committee and the capital outlay committee. We are anticipating going forward with a new bond rating after hopefully this project's approved. And with that, we're hoping that that's going to reduce down our interest cost. A good bond rating means that you're a good credit-worthy source. If you're a good credit-worthy source, then you actually can borrow money less. If we're borrowing money less, then that means we're paying money less. And that would also be where I mentioned the 1.7 is the debt service based upon the assumptions we have right now. If we could knock that down by 1/4 basis points, that results in real savings to you as well. So again, we're not doing a bait and switch. These are real numbers. These are upset numbers, and that's why I'm taking the time to go through talking about how these have been reduced. And I would encourage you and ask you to share this with your neighbors and your friends, and if they have any questions on that, to give me a call. So when you, yeah. See, Chris wants to take it back over.
So just a couple more slides real quick. Just again, to kind of re-summarize, as the MSBA indicated, they're reimbursing 59.47% of the eligible cost of the project, which yields the grant of the $26.196 million. It's based on their calculation. They use $299 a square foot in their formula to determine what the eligible costs are. And they do have caps on what they're willing to pay. As Michael said, the site costs for fields and everything, once you reach 8% of the construction costs, they're going to stop reimbursing you on that, and it becomes a town-only cost. So that was a target of the CPA funds. And the consultant costs, they only reimburse up to 20% of the construction costs, and we're doing everything we can to keep that below that 20% to make sure it's fully reimbursable. Some of the examples of what the MSBA does not reimburse on, they have a list, a long list, but this is just kind of a summary. They don't pay for asbestos abatement of floor tiles. Some of the old buildings have asbestos floor tiles. They're not going to pay for septic system or sewer system out in the street. They're not going to pay to relocate students. So one of the considerations we had for this project was to keep the existing school and the front school fully occupied and operational without impacting the students, to avoid the cost of having to relocate students to an alternate building. It's just not in the budget, and it gets very expensive. They're not going to pay for athletic equipment. As part of the project, you will get backstops and some of the fixtures, but you're not going to get the equipment. They're not going to pay for fees for inspections and local permits. They'll only pay up to 1% of the construction contingency, is about a 3 to 4% fund. They're only going to reimburse up to 1% of that. $299 a square foot, 8% site, 20%. So. Again, they just cap, it's the way they run their formulas is a standard across all projects that they reimburse on. Yes, sir?
Yeah, do you have this figured into your price?
Yes. Yep. Everything that you're seeing is built into the total project budget, everything that is being presented.
Thank you.
Big picture, again, you're in the building, right around here, and this is the existing Washburn, Carver, and the new building is going to be sited out on what is now the playground and parking, and the school will be built. We'll keep it segregated from the existing school. Another key important element was we'll be putting in a new well down in the southeast corner. Right now you've got the well, there's 2 wells, one here and one up in this area. Those will eventually be abandoned once the new well is up and running, and that new well will feed the new school. And then you can see that the fields, soccer fields and baseball fields are laid out, and the parking is significant. And then one other key feature is to help mitigate parking space as well as safe access for the students. the architects have figured out how to design this surface circular road that goes around the back of the school, which is primarily a fire access road, which is required, but it's also going to become a holding area for the buses. So instead of having the buses lined up out in the parking lot, out in the street, they'll be able to have, I think it's 20 buses queued up on that ring road, that the students will go out back and get on the buses in a much more safe manner than they would if they had to cross into the parking lots with all the pickup and drop-off lines. And again, this is just kind of a color version of that. You can see the finish. It doesn't show the old schools. And then this is a sketch of what the current design looks like, where you'd come in the front of the building from the parking lots, and that ring road goes out around the back and then comes around. And you've got the 3 wings that are broken 2 stories. And you'd have the cafeteria and the gymnasium, and then pre-K and kindergarten are over here. So I think that was the bulk of the slides. Some key dates. The project, as was mentioned, was approved by the MSBA yesterday. The next step is the town meeting and town vote for the project to move forward. The MSBA has provided the grant. You guys need to accept it if that's what you chose to do. And just for reference, if on 12-1 or 12-12 the majority says no, that's the end of the project. And this is kind of a key list of key dates that have occurred for the project. And again, just where we're at today with the votes coming up, and deadline to registered vote is actually tomorrow. And assuming that the project did pass, some of the next steps, we would begin the design development immediately. There's actually an effort already underway by HMFH to keep things moving. And if the project's fully authorized, we're already running with the design development that would allow us to complete the construction documents, which is the balance of design, through next summer and next fall, and actually start construction in the fall of 2016 to get the foundations and site work going. So if it is approved, it's just going to go right ahead and it's ready to go. And as I mentioned, fall of 2016, you'd start work and you'd go through the winter of 2018, because after you build a new school, occupy it, you've got to demolish the old school. But you would occupy the new school, September of 2018 would be the plan right now. That's how the construction schedule is laid out. And again, just an overview of the project. So thank you very much, and certainly any questions, well, turn it back to you.
I think we're ready for questions and comments. And I'm gonna go ooh, like this, Joanna.
The slide that you just showed a date. Critical is the vote. I called the town clerk today because I had read if you did not pass in your census, you'd be considered inactive. Oh, I said. And I said, what would we do then? And she said, you can do one of 2 things. If you're unsure, call them tomorrow. They're going to be open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you're inactive, you better go down there and prove that you're a resident of Carver. Very easy, license, bill of any sort. Because I hate to see you get caught at town meeting or at the poll trying to vote and you are inactive because you didn't complete the census or send it in.
Thank you, Joanna. Next question. Somebody?
Yeah, my question is, are we going to, when Plymouth built their new high school, they weren't able to open it because they didn't have the funds to open it. Is that figured into this? You know what I mean?
Yep, I'm going to direct the answer to the question to our superintendent on that.
Yes, so that was Plymouth South, and Carver moved in while we were waiting for ours to be built. but we don't anticipate needing any more staff than we already have, because we have fully staffed for this building now. The problem in Plymouth was they budgeted for the new school because they had a population boom, but they hadn't budgeted for the staff for the new school. And so that's why it didn't sit empty, because we used it. So the cost of opening in the new school, as far as staffing goes, is already covered. We're just gonna move these people to the new school.
Let me ask you another question. Have you got, is all the contracts been, have we got any contract issues coming up that we're gonna have to address?
No, all of our contracts for every single employee is settled through 2018. All of 16, 17, and 18. We'll be renegotiating for 2019. So all of our contracts are completely settled
And fully funded?
and fully funded.
I'll hold you to that.
Yep. You know, I've been here 10 years, but previous to superintendents, the schools have absolutely never, ever asked for a penny more to fund the contracts in the history of the school system, because we plan to staff it according to the contract. We would never come back to town for more money for staffing. We haven't done it in 30 years, and we don't plan to do it in the future.
Fred, you're gonna have to hold the new superintendent to that.
Yes,
Because
well,
I
Liz
knew
is
that I had to be a
retired.
reason, something to be honest.
Hi, I have a bunch of questions. Number one, who pays for the demo of the old school, and what's the estimated cost of that?
Chris, you want to answer that?
That is part of the construction cost. It is eligible for reimbursement, so it's a shared cost between the town and the MSBA. And I'm just looking to see if we had it broken out.
One of the things that the selectmen and the school building committee did when we first started this project is we wanted to make sure every number we share with you is all in construction and furnishing cost. So there's no areas where we've left out something and we're gonna come back to you. These are all in cost for the entire picture you see up there to implement.
So just for reference, the existing building demolition is calculated at about $675,000. The in-building hazardous material abatement is $834,000. And then the asbestos flooring, as I mentioned, the floor tiles, which are not eligible, that's the one piece that's not eligible, is about $52,000.
You want me to, oh, you want to just bellow it out?
I can yell it out.
Okay.
What is the percentage rate of the bond, and is the interest rate figured into the cost for the taxpayer?
Yes, it is, and the $1.7 million that I mentioned on the debt service of the $23 million, we're conservatively running right now a 5% interest rate on 25 years. And that's a conservative number for municipal bonding.
Okay. The new school will house what, pre-K to grade 5?
Correct.
And how many students is that right now? How many do you have now?
we have what's called the design enrollment of 750 students, kindergarten through 5th grade. But we are building 3 preschool rooms to house our preschool as well, which is also reimbursed. So we will have enough room for all of the existing students plus the preschool. So 69 students is what we ended preschool with last year. Preschool students come to us all through the year because as they turn 3, they can come into the preschool. So our number at the beginning of the year goes from 45 to 65, 69 by the end of the year. So you add the 750 plus our 65 or 70 preschools. So right now we have 809 students, and that's about exactly how many we'll have if you have preschool plus K through 5.
And we're planning each wing. My selling point to everybody is the simple person on the building committee, is that this building is going to have every room and every child have natural light and windows that open. I am old-fashioned, okay? But considering that we might grow, the core facilities in the front are large enough so that we can put an addition on this wing of 4 classrooms, an addition on this one for 4 classrooms, and that one on the end. 2 floors, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the second floor. And in fact, when they wire and plumb, they're going to have 1 or some classrooms all ready to go, so that if we needed expansion, we'd have it. Go.
According to the Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, on their enrollment data form, they currently list you at 784 students, which is a 25% drop from the year 2000. Each year, you've had a percentage drop of students. You've done a marvelous job in planning all these things, but have you looked at your enrollment studies? You're dropping, and it's 25% less now, and you want a $52 million school for 784 students that's going to continue to drop. In the business world, if your sales are off by 25%, you don't go out and build a new factory.
You're absolutely right. From 2000 up to 2012, we dropped 25%. But in the last 2 years, last year we gained, previous year we gained 24 students, this year we gained 29 students, more than we had last year. And we have a rise and fall in each grade level. Last year we had 119 kindergartners, this year we have 139. This year's 7th graders, there are 169 in that class. So we have ups and downs, but what MSBA does is they have this enormous modeling program that puts in our population over the last 20 years and comes up with, and what the live birth rates are at Carver, and they take a percentage of the children born in Carver and the percentage that enter kindergarten, and that's the model they use to build the population. But what I want to say to you is that I've been part of 7 schools built, some in declining enrollment, some in an uptick, and every single one we've moved into has had more students come, because if you build it, they will come.
Part of the reason they're going down.
Go ahead.
I take issue with your numbers. You gained 16 students for the year 13, 14. 14 and 15, you dropped 23. And 13, 14 was the only one where you picked up 16 students.
You're talking about the whole district? I'm talking about the elementary school.
I'm talking grades, pre-K through 5, through 6, actually.
So we have these
Massachusetts.
Right, well, I think it might be off by a year, but we definitely gained this amount of students because that's what we turned into to the DESI. But we are definitely on a slight rise. And if you call me, I'd be happy to give you the Department of Education data that I have from them.
I took it off this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we catch some other questions here? I'll head over there.
I have just 2 questions. After the 25 years, does that 359 get dropped off our tax bill? And the second one is, after you implement the 350, whatever it is for each thing, that's not including if you have to pay more out on taxes for like the police or the fire or whatever you need, right? So you'll have the 359 plus whatever else you need to support the town.
That's true. Maybe town administrator can define a little more.
I get all the hard questions.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, in the ballot vote that's on December 12th, that ballot vote speaks to paying off the debt for Article 2, which I've handed out,
Right.
which is the $49 million.
Right.
So once that debt service has been paid off, that 25 years of the $1.7 million per year, that then stops being an expense to the town, and the taxpayers are no longer billed for that
Right,
because
but
that
are
goes
we
away.
gonna see a deduction of 350 or whatever you decide to do?
You would see a deduction of 350 between year 25 and 26.
36,
Yes,
okay.
you would. That will come to a close, and you will see that on your tax bill.
All right, but in the meantime.
In the meantime,
right,
now-
After we pay the 350, you're gonna have expenses for the town, whether it's for the library or the school or the fire, wherever. Okay, we're gonna have even additional tax on top of that, correct?
That is correct. There is the normal day-to-day, year-to-year operations of the town. And every year, based upon Prop 2.5, everyone's taxes on average go up at least 2.5%. That is,
On top of the 350? Yes. Right.
hold on one second.
Okay.
Forget the 350 for a second.
Okay,
Sitting here today, everyone, year over year, your taxes will generally go up 2.5% per year because that's what Prop 2.5 allows for. And that's to continue the day-to-day operations of the town, whether it's paying the teachers, paying the volunteer fire department, whether it's paying the police. That happens, that will continue to happen. That's not going to change.
right.
Okay. Above and beyond that are the numbers we're talking about. Those numbers will be above and beyond that for a fixed period of 25 years, and then that will drop. So yes, you still have your base taxes, but that temporary tax of 25 years will disappear. Now, what I want to also make clear is when the town moved forward last year with the capital stabilization plan, and we started to fund the fire station, we're funding buying 3 new fire engines. We're funding a new roof on the middle high school and a new boiler in the middle high school with some state match on that. All of that is being done within the normal tax base. As I stand here today, I do not foresee a need for the town to go forward with an additional debt exclusion for anything in the near future. Because we're going to fund the police station, we're going to fund the fire station, all that's going to be done within your normal 2.5 year over year.
I'm not against the school. My concern is, because I took the tour,
Yep.
and my biggest concern is these classrooms don't have space to store anything. And a lot of stuff that I was able to see through our principal, you know, I'm in totally agreement with it. My concern is the taxes. It was never put in the paper that you would have still the 2.5% on top of the 350 or whatever.
Well, let me make that clear.
That
'Cause
has never been really brought out, I don't think. I could be mistaken.
Hi, Al Dunham, one of your selectmen. If you haven't seen our last selectmen meeting,
I did.
we had our we set our tax rate.
Right.
For the third year in a row, we've been able to have our tax rate set at $17.04. What that means is if the value of your home doesn't change, your tax bill's not changing. Regardless, you know, we take out the debt exclusion, that means your tax bill's not changing.
Okay.
If your home increased in value, yeah, then your annual property tax is gonna go up a little bit.
Okay.
But I use that as an example, is now for 3 years, we've been able to hold the tax rate as is, because through the finance committee, through the capital outlay committee, through the board of selectmen, and for everybody that's showing up at town meeting to vote, we're working hard to keep control of our taxes. We're trying to keep costs, we're trying to spend better, we're trying to, you know, think out of the box. And we'll continue to do that. So I just wanted to add a little more clarification that, yeah, usually taxes go up every year. We're doing our best to keep that down. And if the debt exclusion gets approved at the end of 25 years, it's gone.
Well, I thank both of you for
Thank you, Al.
answering.
I had somebody over here I need to go to first. And get anybody that hasn't had a chance to ask a question.
Hi, Dagmar Ryan. I'd like to speak to the enrollment numbers. There is a project that is being proposed on the west side of 58 on Plymouth Street. It's a 40B project. They're planning on putting 39 houses there. So, and they're not single bedrooms, so you figure if it's a 2-bedroom and maybe they each have a child, that's another classroom. So we will be getting more students. Enrollment, probably, the town expects it to grow. So I just wanted to add that in as, we're not shrinking by any means.
Okay. Coming?
I have two questions. The first maybe is for Mr. Malinowski. Are there any existing capital debt exclusion projects that are on our town books that will come off in the near future?
From a debt exclusion, no. Within our capital outlay or capital stabilization account, that's what pays for our debt service. So you have the existing town hall and the existing library. Those are actually, their debt service for that is actually going to be retired in 2017. So those will be coming off, and that's how we're able to add the fire station onto that piece there. But it's not a debt service, that was done within the base.
And then, do you have an idea from the, sorry.
For those people part of the project that work with MSBA, do you have an idea of what the average reimbursement is for an elementary school project?
It's
comparable?
it's a socioeconomic formula for each town. They range from, I think the lowest 30% for a more wealthy town to as high as 70% for a inner city, less influential town, less affluent town.
And are we comparable to the reimbursement rate that the MSB provided in 2012 or in 2009, approximately?
I believe it's approximately the same reimbursement rate because it's based on the same formulas for the socioeconomic analysis that they do for the town of Carver.
With the exception, there was an extra bonus for a renovation project. Because this isn't a renovation project, we're not getting, I think it was 2 points, is that what it was, Les? 2 or 3 points?
At that time, it was 4 total,
And we were getting how much of the 4?
2.2.
And the 2.2 is just based upon the direct renovation cost, not the entire project.
But the reimbursement of points available now are just 2. So it's pretty much a wash. And the other thing is our base range changed from the first time we were offered the grant to today by 0.01. So the base rate, our socioeconomic rate, did not change. So we're getting the same amount of money, 56.26 as we would have gotten in 2009 or 2012. Then we earned some extra energy points on this building. We are maximizing all the points that are available. We couldn't really earn any more points than we have gotten for this project.
Good, thank you.
I might make a comment. Some of us on the building committee visited the Christopher McAuliffe Elementary School in Concord. And HMF, our architects designed that school. And as we went through it, I asked the facilities director what the state reimbursed them. And in New Hampshire, it's 50-50. And I wonder, you know, as we look at our reimbursements down the line, if we were to turn the school down, in 10 years, would it be where it is now? That's a question that I had. Someone else, question?
I just want to know which direction is north on the north-south line on that.
I think the north is straight up, straight up.
No, to your left. That's 58 above.
That's 58 at top.
Okay, yep. One thing I wanted to make a mention of, you remember, was it 3 years ago we put a septic system in for the Governor John and the Rowan Washburn building? Five, okay, 5 years, but that's relatively new. We are going to use that septic system in this new building.
It's right there.
It's right there. So that one of the problems with the sites, when we were looking at the high school site, was that we're going to have to build a new sewage treatment plant there if we had both schools on the same site. This way, they can have a new septic system instead of a sewage treatment plant, which is much less money, and we can use this one. Someone else? Yep.
Do we get reimbursed for that septic now that we're making a new building? Like, do we get any of that money back? No,
I
that's not
don't
part
think
of it.
so, because it's already there.
No.
Wow, but I thought
No.
it was a high hopes.
Yeah.
Because there's such a broad difference between where schools are in cities, towns, and very rural places, MSBA doesn't reimburse utilities, is what it comes down to. They don't have any reimbursement rates because cities have utilities and we don't. So, and there's hookup fees in cities and we don't have that. So to make it an even playing field, that utilities are not allowed to be reimbursed, but that's all paid off. We paid that off a long time ago. Septic.
Yes, sir, go.
We were told that this project would be about $52 million. If we were told that this would last a long, long time, if it's 50 years, that's over $1 million a year depreciation, because obviously, if it lasted 50 years, at the end of 50 years, the building would be worth zero, like this one would be. Actually, it'll cost us to tear it down to build another new school. And if you take off the 59% they're gonna reimburse us, off the 1,300 a year student depreciation per student, that runs up the taxpayer about $800 a year depreciation per student if it's a 50-year life on this building, which the way they build things now, I don't think it'll last 50 years.
Let's have Devin. Well, I mean, the school is designed to last in excess of 50. In excess of 50, it's supposed to last 75 years. That's the design parameters that HMFH works towards. That's the materials that they use, the maintenance that's planned, everything that goes into it. They expect it to last in excess of 50 years. So it's...
One of the things too, when we were looking at doing some of the value engineering on the building, is that one of the requirements the committee had was we didn't want to go cheap from the standpoint of durability. So any of the design changes that were done in the value engineering were not things that would impact the longevity of the building. We want a solid structure that's going to last 75 or so years. And that is also included in the mechanical components that we put into the building. So a lot of effort was put into this project to make sure it's durable, it's going to last about 75 years, and that it also has low maintenance cost. We did not skimp on those items.
I just want to say the front building was built in 1951. So it's still with us today. It's on its last leg. This building's a 25-year building when it was built in the 70s. So we have exceeded the maximum life of these buildings, and we will with the new one, I'm sure.
Further questions? I do want to make note that we have several of our building committee here. Andy Solowater, John Carter, Jim O'Brien, and our principal, and Sarah Stearns. We have school committee people here. Yes?
Can anyone speak to the water quality and the fact that we're getting a new well? And I guess I'm assuming, I don't know how deep the wells are now and how deep the new well will be, and I assume the water quality would be improved.
Who would be able to address, Liz would.
I can.
Yeah. She has some special interest in her own town on quality of water in their neighborhoods.
So as a volunteer, I run a small water system in my neighborhood. So We have some of the best water quality in Carver right on this lot. We have the highest producing well up in the back corner, which has very high water, no iron, no manganese. This test well that we drilled for this new well is also high quality water. It has a little manganese, but way below the average Carver well, and the iron is way below the average Carver well. So it's high quality water, and it's a good flow. And it exceeds the amount that we need for the occupants of the building. So for water flow, they count not only the children, but all of the adults that are also in the building, and it exceeds the Department of Environmental Protection's minimum load for that.
So there's no treatment required for that?
Not at this time, no. You know, when droughts occur, you know, and the water table gets low, at a future time, sometimes you have to treat, but at this time, we don't have to treat.
And there's no concern about the septic being located that close? It's pretty deep.
Yeah. It's all within the, it's not in zone 1.
Bill?
Yeah, the reason I was asking about the orientation is that for maximum solar gain, you'd want that building facing south. Is there some particular reason we're facing north as opposed to south?
Devin can answer that one.
Yeah, so the building is oriented north-south. The classroom wings are perpendicular to the north, so we are taking advantage of that.
Most of that's glass though, is that facing north or is that?
Yes.
North is to the left.
So all of the classroom wings, so this portion of classroom wing, those are all facing south. And then there's the north side as well. So all of the classroom wings are taking full advantage of that orientation.
I mean, heat loss through the glass is going to be greater than through the walls. So if you've got a lot of glass facing north, it's going to be more. I understand the love window.
The mechanical systems are designed to account for that. So if there's more solar gain on the south than the north, the mechanical systems are balanced so that both sides will be just as comfortable. The windows, yes, we're using heat mirror, which is we're using top notch for that reason.
Okay, anyone else? All right.
I guess I don't want a microphone or nothing. I have a problem with the taxes, a real problem with the taxes. How are you basing on what houses are worth each year? You say our tax rate hasn't gone up in 3 years, but yet how can you say what a house goes up?
I get the mic in your hand.
Because I bought my house
Sure.
19 years ago.
Yes.
And I would be really high up on the tax that I would have to pay for the school. So I am totally dead set against it because my mortgage is less than the average homeowner, actually less than a condo. But yet you're gonna make me pay on the value of my home. Just because my value of my home is really high doesn't mean I can afford to pay on that tax.
There's two components when you receive your tax bill. One is called the tax rate,
Right.
which is set by the selectmen at the recommendation of the Board of Assessors. That's what Mr. Alan Dunham was speaking to, is that rate has been 1701, 1703, 1704. Third year in a row, so it's the same value. The second component, so that's one component, the second, and that's multiplied by the assessed value.
Right.
The assessed value is determined based upon what the market bears for property in the town. It's not necessarily what the market value is, but it's always kind of close to that. So if your value of your home has gone up because you've done improvements or whatever it may be, the value may go up, but the tax rate stays the same, but then you multiply the two together and that does create a larger tax bill. There are properties that have not seen an increase in valuation, so if the tax rate stays the same and their valuation is the same, then they would receive the same tax bill. That's about all I can tell you at this point from
I know,
that
but I
standpoint.
just don't, like, I mean, I hear of people that their taxes kind of stay pretty regular year to year. I haven't done anything to my house in probably 8 years, but yet my taxes have doubled in those 8 years, doubled.
More than doubt, because you value my house.
But I've done nothing to my house. But that's good.
All right,
I know.
good.
but
I'm
my
gonna-
thing is that-
I looked up in the Mass Municipal Towns and Cities book, and out of the 10 towns I looked in the area, we were the second lowest average tax bill. The average tax bill in Carver is $4,400.
Mine's double that.
Okay, you used to live in a nice house.
No, not really.
That's all right, but anyway, no, that's not what, I'm just telling you what that
No,
that
I'm
number
just
is,
saying, but-
okay? Now, here's my problem as the chair of the building. If we vote,
We do it, yes.
if we vote the school down, okay, where does that put us, okay? It would be, I'm just thinking about what we've done in the past, we voted it down. We, as a town, have been able to bring it up in 5 years. Bring it up. That means approach the MSBA and ask them to get put on their list. Then it would take another year or two to go through that action. And then, so really what we're looking at is possibly 10 years before we could, if we turn it down now, we'll be looking to build a school to replace this and the school next door. Now, what do we have to do in these buildings to make them inhabitable for the kids with the problems that we have? And how much are we going to spend? And then when we do the new buildings, poof, gone.
I
Okay, so
totally understand
I-
that, but you're pushing out families like myself. Like, I'm gonna really have to seriously think, if this goes through, I have to sell my house. I can't afford these
We
taxes.
said if it doesn't go through, we're selling.
So it's going to be a,
We will leave this.
it's a different, yes, up and back. Okay, please, we'll keep it to one person at a time, all right?
It doesn't war around somebody's house. My kids went through the system, I have 6 kids, all my kids went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Hey,
I
guys,
think technology.
no, we're not gonna get in differences, folks. Please, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, is the new school gonna have leaky roofs? Is the new school gonna have walls that go from the floor to the ceiling so that our children can not only be secure, but can concentrate on what they're supposed to learn? Is my daughter gonna have to go from one building to the next in the middle of the winter time to eat her lunch or go to certain classes? Is that gonna happen with the new school? Because it's happening now. And for those that, I understand taxes are gonna go up, I understand that. But are the children of this town deserving of a safe and secure and healthy school? That would be my main question. For those that are no votes because they don't want the increase in taxes. Okay, I get that. So when no small family or large family wants to move to this town because the school is dilapidated and their children will not get a safe education, they'll get a good education because the teachers are fantastic.
Yeah.
But they will not be in a safe and secure environment. So no one's gonna wanna move here. So you're a no vote, but the school goes through and we get a new school, that's great. That's fantastic. If that doesn't happen and you wanna move because you can't afford your taxes, you're not gonna be able to sell your 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 6-bedroom house because a family that has that many children that need it, aren't gonna wanna move here.
I'm not gonna be able to sell it because the taxes are so high.
But if you have a school that is safe and secure for your children, people are gonna pay that amount of money to get a safe and secure building for their children. They will come to this town for that. We're gonna have a new fire station that's gonna have a training facility to train officers all over the city. That's not worth it? People are gonna come to this town just for what this town will be able to offer after there's a brand new school.
God forbid if we ever had a natural disaster, a hurricane or something, will this new school be able to handle a major storm like that, earthquake? I mean, I know that they have like certain windows. I mean, I know they have certain windows and stuff has to be regulated, but God forbid.
The designer.
Yeah, so the construction is regulated by building codes, and the building will meet every building code that's out there. The building is not being designed as a shelter, so
So people couldn't come here for a shelter if there was a natural disaster?
No, I believe
The high school.
the
The
high school is
the-
designated as a shelter.
So basically, then this new building could be demolished by a bad storm? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's rated to stand up to anything that we can expect. I mean, if there's a storm that, no one could have expected, an earthquake, a magnitude 9 earthquake, we can't guarantee that the building is going to stand. But the building code has been developed for anything that we can rationally expect within 50 years, 100 years. And we will be meeting those building codes.
Is the glass, because you have more windows from what I understand, is that glass going to be like a shatterproof glass?
So the windows that are being designed, we don't have any more or less windows. We're meeting a percentage of windows.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that we are, there's an excessive amount of windows on the building that's being designed. The building is not completely designed yet. We're still going through those steps.
Okay.
The building committee will be approving every step of the way. We'll show options and get feedback, and that's what we'll be moving forward with. So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, have we pretty much hit the gamut? Folks, whether you're for or against, I'll go, I spotted this young man first. Whether you're for or against, the building committee's objective tonight was to give you as much of the facts as we could. It's not easy to give the expenses, but those are the expenses and the costs. So whether you're opposed or you're for, at least when we get done, somebody's not going to come up to me, I hope, and say, well, I didn't know anything about the building. Okay, you folks, positive or negative, you're still getting the information.
Thank you for calling me young man. My name's Rob Reardon. Couple quick things I just wanted to say. I have no use for taxes. I can't stand paying them like many of you. I have 2 boys that are in the school system, one that's already through here, and one that will be through here before the school would be built. So it's not about me, it's more about the kids. We have a responsibility to do this. I moved to this town 20 years ago, and I can't believe that already it's been, shot down a few times. We have a responsibility to the kids and to the town to get this done.
Somebody over here, yep.
Now, as time goes on and more people move into the town and bring their kids, will that decrease our portion of the $300? Like if we start getting, like the woman had said, that there's gonna be, 40 new houses, is that gonna reflect on our taxes? Are we gonna be able to get a cut as far as if there's more people paying on it?
Me again. But actually, I have good news on this one. The answer to that question is yes. That would increase the base, and that $1.7 million, which is now $1.6 million, would be spread over more households. So if there is some growth, then that potentially could reduce the number. We're still going to have the $1.6 million left of debt service, but again, more payers, so that would go down there. And if I could just pick up on what Mr. Ward just mentioned, our objective throughout this whole process is to make sure that we try to be good stewards of your taxpayer money. That we went through and had an open, transparent, fair process for looking at this building. And building it in a way that had long-term durability and met the educational objectives. We believe this is the best deal the town will get, now or in the future. And we hope you believe it. Whether or not you choose to vote for the project, we hope the decision is only based upon a cost issue. We hope that you leave this meeting feeling confident that we have presented the best case scenario that we could come up with. And then from there, it's your decision when you go to the ballot box.
Why don't they just even it out through the town? Everybody pay the same, then we wouldn't have a problem. Why couldn't they do that?
Well, I get the tough
Instead of
questions
wasting it
again.
on your house?
And the tough question, and the answer to that is that every town, all 351 communities in Massachusetts has a state tax code that's dictated by the state legislature. And this is the law that the state legislature has defined as to how taxes are split up by communities. And they're split up in a more progressive way, that those that own the more expensive properties pay a little bit more. We haven't talked about commercial. Commercial in this town pays a higher rate than residential. This town has a split commercial rate. So a lot of this bill is being picked up disproportionately by the commercial taxpayers that are in here. So I want you to know that as well. But to answer your question, we have to follow the state law, and that's what all 351 communities do. We can't deviate from the numbers that I've laid out for you.
Now, if, people vote for school, yes, we vote for it. What happens? I mean, we're in the boat, we have a bunch of kids too. We want the new school, but what happens? What can the town do for us as far as the selectmen if we fall short and we can't afford to have the tax bill increase? Is there anything that the, town can put into place that will give the family, all right, you're short on a tax bill or something happens, somebody doesn't get an increase on a raise that year, is there anything, what do we do then?
Good question, but I don't know if that's something that anyone can answer. It's, we as selectmen and as your town officials, we have to go by the numbers that are given to us. What departments' expenses are and divided up amongst all our homeowners, and you're paying for the services that you're getting from our town. How do we eliminate them? Well, you know what? I said to somebody, I said, what ones do you want me to eliminate? We just hired 2 years ago, or last year, 2 new police officers because of the huge drug problem, for one thing, that we're looking at. And if you'll notice in the paper and things, that our police department has become proactive on that, and they're working in terms of education and with different groups. And so, somebody says, well, no, we don't want to eliminate any police. We'll eliminate 6 teachers instead. Or, no, we're going to eliminate part of our fire department. Though we have a pretty efficient town all the way around. And so, how do we try to reduce it? By doing something to reduce services, and we do have services. Your fire department is an outstanding service.
You want to reduce it, go to town meeting.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what Tom, yep. Okay, do we have any, yep, Mr. John.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jay John, and I live on South Meadow Road. I have been living here since December of 1979. I have 3 daughters who went through the school system. The baby is now 30 years old, believe it or not. So this is, for me, I am with that Mr. Reardon over there, I think it was, who said that if we don't build this school, then people are not going to want to come to live here. First thing people ask about when they want to move to a new town is, what's the school system like? And if we don't have a school that replaces these dilapidated buildings, folks, the word goes out that don't go to Carver if you have kids. It is not a place you want to live. And what happens then is that the town starts to die out. People like me, all the old people are the ones who are left. And we want this town to be vibrant. Now, having said this, my heart really goes out to the people of this town who are going to have some difficulty in meeting the cost of this.
Yes.
I don't know, I wish there was some magic bullet that we could give to you guys and tell you it'll help you. Everybody in this town has to make the decision that best fits their needs. Some people are going to be caught, they'll say, we need the school, and I'm going to have difficulty affording it, but I want to do my part. Some people won't be able to do that. But that's what life is. You have to make the decisions in the best interest of your children and your family. And if this is something that you feel you can't do, then you can't do it. But we need a school here. It's not a luxury. This building, if we had done this 5 years ago, it would have cost us half as much. But we didn't do that. We chose not to do that at the time. And if we don't do it this time, you think it's going to be less expensive the next time we do this? What happens when the state comes in and says, Carver, that school is a health risk. We cannot allow children in that building. We have shut it down. Now we say, okay, what do we do then?
Pay 100%.
Yep.
We have to make those decisions. They may be tough, but we have to make them. We do need a school. It is not a luxury anymore.
Thank you. I guess we're still open for questions. I imagine many of you would like to head out. Have we covered the gamut pretty much? Is there anybody that would want to make a motion that we adjourn?
I'm good at that. I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed? We have adjournment. Thank you very much, folks.